Welcome into Texans Today, presented by Prize Picks. I'm your host, Jeremy Chuggs, and coming up on today's program, the Texans had joint practice with the Carolina Panthers. We're going to discuss everything that happened during practice today, what you need to know, plus some major injuries that were suffered by a couple of Houston Texans players. We're going to break those down and tell you exactly what we know at this moment. Before we get into all of that, though, please make sure to go give me a follow on social media. I'm at Jeremy Chuggs on X, IG, and TikTok. If you win a prize, if you just want to hit me up, if you want to talk about the Houston Texans, if you want to chop it up, my DMs are open. So all you got to do, give me a follow on these platforms. If you want to ask me anything, if you have any comments, concerns, want to tell me about the show, all you got to do, like I said, hit me up here on all my social media accounts. All right, let's get into the injury news first, because that's what y'all all want to know before we talk about the joint practice. The Texans had two players that went down with injury, both carted off during practice, and it's crazy because it happened at the same time. During these joint practices, we'll have like the Texans offense going up against the Carolina Panthers defense on one field, right? And then on the other field, it's going to be the Texans defense against the Carolina offense. So they're working at the same time. Both sides had injuries to a Texans player at the same exact time. Braden Smith on the Texans offense, the backup was fighting for the starting right tackle up against Trent Brown, and then backup defensive end Ali Gay. Both went on the cart. They both apparently couldn't put weight on their legs. Now, Ali Gay was diagnosed with a knee injury. He's getting an MRI to see what the deal is with that. But Braden Smith, not a knee. His injury was reported by Aaron Wilson to be a foot injury. So maybe a little bit better than it being a knee injury. But either way, not great, right? Like the fact that he can't put weight on it. We're 2 weeks away from the start of the regular season. A little bit of a concern, not going to lie. But this is why it's so important for the Texans to have depth at the offensive line spot. They got screwed last year with injuries, right? Like they had multiple injuries along the offensive line. They didn't have good depth pieces. They just really didn't have a great offensive line. Now you add a bunch of pieces to this unit. And I know earlier this week I talked about, teams reaching out to the Texans about Blake Fisher, possibly him being a, trade candidate. Not anymore, right? Like he is very important on this squad now. He is going to be that swing tackle for the Texans team. And I think this solidifies that it was already a battle, and I think he was winning, but I think this solidifies Trent Brown as your week one starter. I think week one up against the Buffalo Bills, you will see Trent Brown starting there at the right tackle spot, which is not bad news whatsoever, right? The Texans were 7-0 last season during the regular season when Trent Brown was starting at right tackle. He is a mammoth of a human being, 6'8", lives around 370, 380 pounds. He is a mountain of a man. So I'm not too worried about that, but it does suck because obviously he only played in 7 games last year. So some injury concerns there. He also missed the playoff game up against the New England Patriots in the divisional round. A big reason, in my opinion, why the Texans were not able to do anything on the offensive side of the football in that game. So Trent Brown starting good, but missing another backup piece for this Texans team, not very good. Now, my question to you is, what is your one word for your confidence in the Texans offensive line? Are you confident at all? Do you think it's going to be a good unit? Are you worried? Let me know down below how you're feeling about this offensive line unit at this point in time. Now, Braden Smith getting injured, I'm not going to lie, that hurts a little bit because even with him maybe not starting for your Houston Texans, he was a great depth piece, right? Like if Trent Brown ever got injured, I would be confident with Braden Smith going in there. Honestly, even if like the right guard, Ed Ingram, got injured, I might be okay with Trent Brown sliding over, or Trent Brown at right tackle and Braden Smith sliding over to right guard. Like, I would be okay with him filling out a couple spots. Obviously, the Texans have done this in the past where they put a tackle, slide him into guard. I think he was able to be that kind of combo backup for you at guard or tackle. Now, if there's an injury, I think it's Blake Fisher that needs to step up on the either side, left or right tackle. And then on the interior, you're probably looking at Evan Brown to help out on the interior as a depth piece on the offensive line. So definitely don't feel as good as I did, 48 hours ago when Braden Smith wasn't injured, but I'm still okay right now because the Texans added so many pieces this offseason, and there's a lot of good pieces that the Texans still have on that offensive line. Coming up, let's talk about practice. We talked about the injury stuff, the bad stuff. Now let's talk about some of the good stuff from Texans practice because y'all are definitely going to want to hear how the Texans performed up against the Carolina Panthers. DeMeco Ryans said they had a lackluster practice on Monday before they left for Carolina. That was not the case during Wednesday's joint practice. I'll tell you about it here in just a moment, but I couldn't do today's program if it wasn't for our friends over at Prize Picks, America's #1 sports picks app, for good reason. Football is back. We got college football this week going on over in Ireland, so you don't want to miss any of the action and the chance to win some cash while you do so with our friends over at Prize Picks. There's no better place to cash in while watching sports than with Prize Picks, America's #1 sports picks app. Super simple, super easy to use, very user-friendly, available in most of the United States, including California, Texas, and Florida. And this is a lineup that I'm rocking for the entire season. These are my season-long picks for the football year. I'm going with Trevor Lawrence because you have to have somebody from another team, so I'm going Trevor Lawrence, the less on his rush yards. Then I'm going Stroud, more on passing touchdowns, Montgomery, more on rush yards, and Will Anderson, more on the sacks. He got more than that last year, and he's only gotten better. So I think Will Anderson, the more on sacks, that is a no-brainer. You can copy my lineup or go ahead and make your own. Just do it with our friends over at Prize Picks. Play your first $5 and get $150 in lineups if you win. Just use code HMA when you sign up. That's right, Prize Picks just switch up their offer. No better time to join, lock in, and win that first lineup. Let's go to HMA at sign up to get $150 in bonus lineups if you win your first $5 lineup. Shout out to our friends over at Prize Picks. All right, let's talk about practice. Let's talk about practice. We're talking about practice, not a game. Not a game. We're talking about practice. Yes, joint practice up against the Carolina Panthers, where the good news portion of today's show, the Texans absolutely put BTA belt to ass. And maybe not surprisingly, the defensive line was the #1 culprit of this. They were unstoppable. They made the Panthers' offensive line look like a middle school unit. Now, if you don't believe me, I also didn't want to just pinpoint Texans beat reporters that were out there. I thought, okay, let's look at what Carolina Panthers beat reporters were saying at practice. This is from Kelly Bartik, Carolina Panthers beat reporter. Bryce Young, after joint practice with the Texans, they got after us. Not a fun day like this, but we'll learn from it. #Panthers. Also, Joe Peterson, another Panthers beat reporter. Danielle Hunter, with what is at least the 4th sack on Bryce Young, beat Monroe Freeling. Tough day for the rookie and tough assignment against Hunter and Will Anderson. And, Aaron Wilson as well, unstoppable. Danielle Hunter, nearly a full handful of sacks, at least 4 versus overmatched Panthers offensive line. It wasn't just Danielle Hunter either, which Danielle Hunter, I think, might have gotten the best out of anybody during camp, but also I heard Mario Edwards Jr. was making some big plays. Will Anderson was obviously doing his thing. This entire Texans defensive line, Solomon Byrd was getting after it. They were all making the Panthers offensive line a living hell. Like, they were absolutely getting after it. DeMeco Ryans talked about it after practice, specifically around Danielle Hunter. This is what he had to say. Danielle's a problem. He continues to be a problem. That's why we love hanging him and Will. When you have two guys off the edge who can be as disruptive as they are, it makes it hard on offenses, makes it hard for them to operate on the timing they want to operate on. Danielle and I saw a few plays. He's back there in the backfield a lot. Great to see that. Danielle Hunter, an absolute wrecking ball and really a massive part of this Texans defense, right? I think Will Anderson, Danielle Hunter, they are easily the best pass rushing duo in the NFL, and that takes into account Myles Garrett with the Los Angeles Rams and Bryce Young. Like, I think Myles Garrett is fantastic, but you're telling me, Myles Garrett and then Bryce Young? Bryce Young's the 4th best edge rusher, and it's not even close. And I think Will Anderson is actually a lot closer to Myles Garrett than what people give him credit for. Let's go to another player that everybody wanted to see. Booty, Kayshon Boutte, was there on the side, right? Like, he was going through team drills on the sideline, catching the ball, going through, the basic, or I would say wide receiver drills on the side, but was not a part of the team 11 on 11s, was not a part of that action. But he was out there right here wearing number 88. I do wonder, if Brevin Jordan isn't able to go for the season, if Kayshon Boutte reverts back to his number 9. Now, this is what DeMeco Ryans had to say on Kayshon Boutte after practice. Kayshon was a big get for us. We lost a significant player for us in Jaden Higgins. It's hard to replace him. We tried to go out and find a guy with the caliber of Kayshon. We've played against Kayshon multiple times over the past couple of years. He's continued to make plays time and time again. He's a young player, an ascending player with a lot to improve upon, a lot to grow. So I'm excited to work with a young player who still has a very bright future. My question to you is, will he be the wide receiver 2? Who do you think will be this Texans wide receiver 2? After hearing that, he talked about the caliber of player that Kayshon Boutte was. Maybe the same caliber or a similar caliber to Jaden Higgins, who I think was undoubtedly the wide receiver 2 for this Texans squad before he went down with a season-ending ACL injury. Let me know down below in the comments section who you think the wide receiver 2 is going to be for this Texans squad. Talking about the offense more, though, Stroud had a solid day. Very good day for the offense. He really was able to dissect this Panthers defense for most of the day. Started off a little slow. I saw a couple Panthers beat reporters say the first couple of periods were pretty, stalwart for the Texans offense against this Panthers defense. We're moving it a little bit, but not a ton. But later on in the day, halfway through the practice and later on in the later periods, the Texans offense really got it going. This from Jonathan M. Alexander of the Houston Chronicle. Texans offense has success in the first half of practice. A lot of medium gains. CJ Stroud often found Nico Collins. David Montgomery had some really nice runs too. And then also this on some of the team drills. This is how a drive went, which obviously some great news for your Texans team going up against this Panthers defense. It was Stroud to Dalton Schultz for 7 yards. Stroud to Xavier Hutchinson for 15 yards. Then to Justin Watson for 10 yards. And then Stroud to Lewis Bond for a 25-yard touchdown. Stroud had a really good day today, and that's important, right? He only got one drive in the preseason. And I know that, he scored a touchdown. The offense scored a touchdown on that drive, so we're good. But for an offense that is in somewhat of a rebuild, retool kind of year, I do kind of wish they got more reps together up in preseason. Obviously, they get to do it in joint practice here, but still, I would like to see a little bit more out of the Stroud in this first unit offense. But I guess we'll have to wait week 1 whenever they face off against the Buffalo Bills. Now, the last note of the day is the Texans won the day. It was clear and obvious. If this was an actual game, the Texans would have, I don't want to be too harsh, but maybe wiped the floor with the Panthers. They seemed to dominate during this practice. And like I said, I didn't want to just pick on Texans beat reporters for this one. I want to go to a couple Panthers beat reporters. This is what Mike Kay had to say. It was pretty lopsided today, I'll be honest. That was actually a direct quote from Panthers head coach Dave Canales. He said it was pretty lopsided today and that the Panthers offense really couldn't do anything up against this Texans defense whatsoever. And then he went on to say they were better than us today. Panthers head coach Dave Canales on the Houston Texans. Canales said their starters won't play on Friday as well. So for the Houston Texans, after on Monday, DeMeco Ryans kind of called them out. He said, this was maybe one of our worst practices that we've had of training camp. He was not pleased after that Monday practice before the Texans got on planes to head to Carolina. They really came out and dominated. They were, laser focused. They went up against, a team that I think is, lesser in talent than they are. I think the Texans roster overall at most positions is probably better than the Carolina Panthers at this point. The Texans have a top 5 roster in the NFL, and I'm just glad they were able to flex their stuff. I'm glad they were able to really show how good they are and, that there are levels to this, because it was kind of the same sentiment whenever they played up against the Raiders that, we are just a better overall team. When the first units were going against each other, it was just clear and obvious which side had the advantage, and it was the Houston Texans. All right, that's all I have for you on this segment. So make sure to go down if you are subscribed. If you haven't already, go down and hit that sub button. But if you are subscribed, go down, spam those H's down below in the comment section so I know who my real ones are. Appreciate y'all so much for watching today's video.